Positivity, baby. Positivity. That's what I'm working with today. This is Top Dogs, the UConn podcast on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dosser, and I know UConn lost last night. It was 64-62. Loss came at Creighton. UConn is now 0-5 against the Blue Jays as a member of the Big East Conference, and they are now staring at the potential of getting a 4 seed in the Big East tournament, which likely means a date with Marquette or Seton Hall in the quarterfinals on that Thursday afternoon, with the potential showdown with Providence in the semifinals on Friday night in Madison Square Garden. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about that coming up soon. The Big East tournament obviously is next week. We're going to preview that. But today I just want to focus on what happened on Wednesday night because I think there are some worthwhile talking points and some things that we definitely need to discuss. Wednesday night's loss was a frustrating loss in the sense that, there were a lot of things that happened last night that were themes earlier on this season that we haven't really seen over the course of February. But it's not a loss that I'm really all that concerned about. Why? Well, first and foremost, UConn lost because they played a really, really bad first 15 minutes on the road against a good, well-coached team in a building that holds 18,000 people that is known for being a difficult place to play. Arthur Kaluma got loose in the first half. I think he scored all 15 of his points in the first half. In the second half, Greg McDermott did a terrific job at scheming ways to get Ryan Kalkbrenner rolling to the rim in the second half, whether it was, lifting the defense or putting him in ball screens or using 4 or 5 ball screens. Mac is a great, great, great basketball coach. He is great at scheming ways to create offense out of nothing. He is great at finding answers, even if his team ends up losing their star point guard like they did with Ryan Nembhard. I think that this group is better than most Big East fans realize. I think we're still worried a little bit about preseason projections and not focusing on the fact that this is a very good young team that everybody said was a year away and is now at the end of that year. This is a good basketball team. This is the reason what we saw last night is the reason why they are the third place team in the Big East. They are good. Bad 15 minutes is going to lose you a game on the road against a team like Creighton. UConn found that out the hard way. It happens. And I think that's a really important thing to emphasize in this spot. This was a bad 15 minutes in a road environment that came on the back of 5 straight wins. UConn did what they needed to do to put themselves in a position to be a top 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament during the month of February. They have more or less figured out what they need to be able to do to beat good teams. RJ Cole has been sensational. I think he has a chance to end up being a first-team all Big East player this year. I don't think it's crazy to say that. Tyrese Martin is playing well. He's playing angry most of the time. Adama Sanogo on Wednesday, he's been really good, but he had a night where he just couldn't get anything to stay down. And he still finished with 13 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 blocks against one of the best big men in the Big East. Shit like this happens in league play. There's a reason why the Big East is the Big East. They're going to get 7 teams in the NCAA tournament. You're not going to go undefeated in this league. It's just not going to happen. So, look, it is what it is. And to me, the biggest thing, the worst thing that could happen at this moment is all of those good vibes, all of those positive feelings, all of those UConn can make this happen. UConn is really good. All of those thoughts that we had after they won 5 straight, after that win over Villanova, we can't replace that, right? They just came off a 5-game winning streak. They went 5-2 in the toughest stretch of 7 games that they're going to have this year. They went 5-2 in a stretch where some of us thought they could end up losing all 7. Some of us thought they were going to go 2-5. They went 5-2 in that run. They're a really good team. They're a top 20 team in America. Don't let the bad vibes take over. Sometimes you lose basketball games. That's what happens when you play in good leagues. You don't go undefeated. A loss by 2 on the road because of a slow start against a good Big East opponent, that is going to happen. So woosah. This is the way that I want to look at this team right now. They have a very real chance to win the Big East tournament. They've beaten Villanova already this season. They can beat Providence. They've lost 2 one-possession games to Creighton. They swept Marquette. None of that is changed by what we just saw on Wednesday night. So from now on, I'm making a rule. If you're going to be here, if you're going to be watching these games with me, if you're going to be following along this season with me, positive vibes only. I will say this, though, and I don't want to sound like a total and complete fanboy, so I do have to talk a little bit about some of the negative stuff, but I do believe at the end of the day, what is going to be the downfall of this team is going to be self-inflicted wounds. Um, I, I'm not sure if UConn's best would be able to beat Gonzaga, and I'm not sure if UConn's best would be able to beat Arizona. Those two teams are ridiculously good. I hope people that are on the East Coast have been able to stay up to watch them play because they are ridiculous. I think that Baylor would be a very difficult matchup because of their ability to pressure the ball. I think Duke would be a very difficult matchup because of their size and the overall talent level that they have. I think that a team like Illinois would probably give UConn some problems because they got Kofi Coburn inside and because they have guards that can get out and really kind of climb up into RJ Cole. There are some bad matchups out there, but if I'm being frank, I don't know if there are more than 4 or 5 teams in all of college basketball this season that will beat UConn when UConn plays their best game. And I know that might sound like a hot take, and I know I might sound like a little bit of a homer, but UConn beat Auburn on a neutral and put up 115 points in 50 minutes of basketball. They beat Villanova. They can overwhelm teams on the glass. They can erase everything at the rim. They can be suffocating on the defensive end of the floor when they are playing well. When RJ is cooking and Tyrese is playing angry and Adama is finishing stuff around the basket and he has it working in the post, and Jordan Hawkins and Tyler Polley, when they're making shots on the perimeter, this UConn team is very, very, very good. And truth be told, I do believe that we've seen something close to the level of their best performance quite a few times over the course of the past month. Like in February, this was probably the best that UConn's played all year, probably the best month that UConn has had under Dan Hurley. The second half against Seton Hall stands out. The first half against Xavier, the full game against Marquette, the first 38 minutes against Georgetown, the majority of the game against Villanova. It's been a really, really impressive month for this UConn team. What UConn cannot have is, and what UConn consistently seems to do in certain situations, is shoot themselves in the foot, man. Like, I've been banging this drum in this space for a while, but the easy mistakes and the simple mistakes that are self-inflicted, that are unforced, that are the results of bad decisions or the results of being unable to finish, like those are the things that are going to ultimately take this team down, I think, in my opinion. Adama missing point blank shots at the rim, like that's part of the reason why his efficiency numbers are so low this season, is because he shoots just 52% from 2. That drops to 48% against tier A opponents, according to KenPom. As a team, UConn is shooting just 48% from 2 this season, which is 237th nationally, and they are at 47.5% from 2-point range in the Big East, which is 8th in the league play. They don't make easy shots when they get easy shots. When they drive, they are driving to score as opposed to driving to kick. It's little things like that that make it difficult for them to get things done in half-court settings, and it's little things like that I've said this over and over, that make it difficult for them when they are trying to get the easy baskets. Right? When you can't struggle in that, or when you can't score in the half court, you need to make the layups that you get off offensive rebounds. You need to make the layups that you get in transition. You need to finish the transition opportunities when you have like 3-on-1 or 3-on-2 or 4-on-2 breaks. That's where UConn kind of struggles. It's poor decision making and poor spacing in transition. Like these are the things that cost them easy points. These are the reasons why in the past they've struggled to make 2 and 3 point leads into 8 and 9 point leads. It's why they've had some games where they've lost close games when it's like, well, how is a team this talented only scoring 53 points? That's where they kind of can tend to struggle. It's the dumb, unforced turnovers that kill momentum. As much as I love what Andre Jackson brings to this program and his versatility and his athleticism and what he can do on the defensive end of the floor, his habits and his tendencies to throw the ball into the bleachers or to fire fastballs at his big man's knees as they're running full speed down the court in transition. The times when you can literally see after a turnover, the camera go to Dan Hurley and him say, you can't give him the ball there. You can't pass him the ball there. Those are the things that I think that's what's going to end up bringing this season to an early close. If it comes down to an early close, it's UConn beating themselves. And it's just that's kind of who they are. And it is what it is. And they're still a top 20 team as a result of it. But it's those little things that consistently mount up and cost you 4, 6, 8 points during a game, which is why you end up losing close games. The perfect example came midway through the second half yesterday. UConn was down 34-18 at one point in the first half, about 15 minutes in. They cut it to 10 at the break, and then a 12-1 run at the start of the second half made it 37-36. UConn had never led at this point. They had the ball, down by 1, 14 minutes left in the half. That possession, Andre Jackson gets his pocket picked, get it 2 points the other way, a layup, a pick six layup. On the possession after that, Andre comes flying to the rim trying to score, bricks a layup that ends up being a putback dunk on the other end of the floor by Ryan Kalkbrenner. The possession after that, Adamo gets the ball in the post. Puts his head down, unaware of what's around him, gets his pocket picked. That ends up going the other way, and there's a foul called. So instead of having the ball down by 1 with a chance to take your first lead of the game, UConn is now defending to try to prevent it from becoming a 3-possession game. It's those swings, it's those moments, it's those momentum killers. Those are the things that you can't have happen against good teams, that you can't have happen on the road, that you can't have happen in a tournament setting if you are going to survive. Those are the mistakes that UConn tends to make, and that's why they tend to lose games like this. To me, it's not necessarily getting beaten. It is doing the things, it's not doing the things necessary to ensure that you don't beat yourselves. And I think if something's going to happen and UConn's going to get knocked out of the tournament early, or they're going to get knocked out of the Big East tournament early, that is going to end up being why. Now, all that said, in February, we didn't really see that happen. We really did not. It did not happen against Xavier. It did not happen against Villanova. It did not really happen against Seton Hall. There's a reason they beat Marquette. So I think that this is something where a road environment, tough team, blah, 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 all those things that I mentioned before, it happens. This is what happens when you play in good leagues. You're going to lose games. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not. And look, even with those mistakes and those frustrations and the way that they kind of tend to play in those situations, this group is still a dangerous team in the month of March. And think about it like this. How long have we desperately wanted a team that we can care about this much during March? How long has it been since we've really had a chance to say, okay, you know what? If this group shows up and plays well, we got a chance to make a run of the tournament. It's been a long, long time. So at least this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into the segment from last night's After Dark with Steve Prohm and Randolph Childress here in a second. But look, I'm going to enjoy this. It's been we've been locked down for 2 years. We have not gone out in 2 years. We have not seen UConn in the tournament like this for 8 years. I'm going to enjoy it. Whatever ends up happening, I'm here. I'm riding. Let's get this done. If we win, this is going to be so much fun. I'm going to be cheering so fucking loud. And if we lose, you know what? I'm just going to be very thankful that we're back in a position where I can hate on Providence fans, where we can celebrate beating Villanova, where we can make fun of Syracuse for being in a league that they don't want to be in, where we can laugh at Pitt for being Pitt, where we can go to the Garden and play in a fucking Big East tournament again, man. I'm so jacked up. I'm so hyped for this. Let's go. Let's get some wins. Go Huskies. UConn went on the road and lost to a Creighton team, 64-62, that was missing their starting point guard, Ryan Nembhard. Not the best result for my Huskies, but it was not something that I think was I don't think it's necessarily a backbreaker. So let's go to you first in this one, Prom. How big of a win is this for Creighton? They don't have their starting point guard, like I mentioned. But this is, they needed this win. We were talking about it off air. This Creighton team, they're on the bubble right now. And this is the kind of win that can put you onto the right side of the bubble.
Yeah, this was big. And I think they're on the right side of the bubble for sure now. You got to sweep over Marquette. You got to sweep over Connecticut. And you beat Villanova. That's 5 legit wins. And their youth was good again tonight. Obviously, Nembhard's a freshman, and you mentioned that he's out. But Hawkins, Kaluma, and Kalkbrenner, those guys were terrific tonight. And Hawkins, as a senior leader, elder statesman on the group, even though he's a transfer, terrific. And they got off to a great start. And then obviously UConn's got some toughness and some grit to them, came back, and Creighton's a phenomenal place to play. So that environment tonight, I'm sure, was really, really good. But big win for Creighton for sure.
RC, what'd you think?
You know what? I've been saying this to you, and I know the averages talk about UConn having those 3 guys, but I often I know you're a big UConn fan, and I shared that with you. Whenever they're in a close game, my concern from a guard perspective is who shows up besides RJ Cole. And I get all this flack about, this guy averages this. When they're in close games, I who is going to be that third guy? And I've said this. I know what the averages, the numbers tell me. I just want to know who's going to be that guy, and I'm concerned about that tonight. It's no different.
Yeah, their issue is that they basically have one guy that can create on his own, and their other go-to guy, Adama Sanogo, is someone that can get taken away really easily in the paint.
Yep.
And we saw Creighton do that for the second time this season. And it doesn't help when you got a 7-footer like Ryan Kalkbrenner out there on the defensive end of the floor. I just want to circle back on the Jays really quick and make one more point before we talk a little bit about UConn. This Creighton team is young and they have a lot of pieces. And I remember T.O. made this point earlier this season on one of these shows, is that when you are a year away, RC, by the time you get to the end of that season, you're basically what you're going to be the next year, right? When you say you got a lot of youth, you got a lot of inexperience, by the time you get to the end of that freshman year, you got to be ready to go. And it feels like this Creighton team, they may not have their star point guard, but that team was ready to go tonight.
We always said, if you're a freshman, when you hit sophomore, that second half of your conference play, you're as a freshman, you're a sophomore at that point. Like you've grown up, you've been battle tested, you've played in big games, you have an idea of what the league is going to be like, and it's just time to grow up. So you're right. As you get to this point, heading into March, it tells you have an idea of where your squad is trending as far as the next year. And Creighton is going to be, man, if they get everybody back, I think there'll be a preseason top 25 team.
Yeah, I agree. You agree, Prom?
Yeah, I do. I like this team, and they've gotten better all year long. Obviously, early in the year, you got young guys. You're going to take some growing pains, have some growing pains. But if you're third place, we said this off air. If you're third place in the Big East, I mean, what are we talking about? The bubble? I mean, come on now. They're third place. They've won 11 games right now, I believe, in the Big East. 11. And we're saying people have them as a last four in or a first four out or possible, last four buys or whatever it may be. They're deserving an NCAA tournament bid for sure.
Yeah, I think they locked it up after this one, right? I mean, they're just 12. They're 12-6 in the Big East. Like, I don't know. I'm wondering who
is
has
it 12-6 now. So when
12-6,
yeah, you're 12-6 in the Big East, and you're not. I mean, you're not a 6 seed. I mean, who's doing these? Who's doing these?
I mean, if you want to know the reason why, it's because their metrics aren't great. Yeah. They're in low 60s in the net. They're low 60s in KenPom, and those are the kind of metrics that a lot of these people value when it comes to where you get seeded. Now, for my understanding is that who gets into the tournament and who gets left out of the tournament does not have all that much to do with the number next to your name with the net and with number next to your name with KenPom. It has a lot to do with where you get put into that bracket and where you get slotted and where you are seated. And because Creighton has those numbers that aren't great, then they're probably going to end up kind of being on that 10 or 11 line. Now, that said, picking up another home win against UConn is going to be something that helps them and gives them a little bit of a boost. Are you guys, RC, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but are either of you worried about UConn kind of big picture when it comes to March? Like I've seen different people mention them as being a threat in March and a threat in some of these settings. And I think a lot of that has to do with the pedigree this group has. As someone that watches them every day, I sit here, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I'm always pessimistic about the teams that I root for. I'm probably the worst fan on the planet, but it's I watch them and I'm like, I don't know about a run here.
I don't see them making out of the first weekend. I think they're tough. I think they're well coached, but again, their Achilles heel all year has been, who else is going to create on this team besides RJ Cole? Who else is they going to get the ball to and give him a bucket? Size inside bothers Sanogo a little, and he's not the biggest guy. He plays hard, his motor and all that, but I just they've had a good year, no question about it. That was been my concern all year long in close games. Who else besides RJ Cole is going to be able to step up and handle it? And I've had that question from the beginning, and I still have it now. And I don't think it's nothing that UConn has done has shown me anything to be, overly, like figure that they fix that. It's just my belief in how they are. I don't know what else.
Who they are. That's what they are this year. You agree, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. Whether it's a 6-11, 5-12, 7-10 game, they obviously they'd be disappointed if they lost that first game, but can they win the second one? That may be tough on them to do that, but there's no question, like Randolph said, man, Danny's got them established, and and obviously laid a great foundation, and they're headed in the right direction for sure.
My big thing, self-inflicted mistakes, dumb turnovers, bad turnovers in transition, not being aware of where the help side is coming from, getting your pocket picked in the post, Dama Sanogo throwing the ball out of bounds, Andre Jackson throwing 90-mile-an-hour fastballs at a center's head when he's running full speed and train. Like it's those little things that turn. If you do 2 or 3 of those things in a perfect example, they go on that 12-1 run to open the second half, right? They cut the lead 37-36. That crowd, 18,000 people in there, silent. Next 2 they have the ball. Next 2 possessions, turnover, easy layup. They get a bad shot at the basket, like like 20 seconds left, runner at the rim, transition, layup the other way, come down, another turnover, and then they get fouled. Creighton gets fouled at the other end. So it's a quick 6-0 run that just kills all the momentum you had, and it's those simple mistakes that are just backbreaking.